All right, buckle up because we're diving into some seriously juicy stuff today. Those excerpts you sent about Diablo. Yeah, we're going deep on his
Yeah,
past.
this is going to be good.
Seriously, it's like someone took his life story and just hit the spill the tea button. And let me tell you, this guy, he's got baggage.
And then some. Right. It's like classic tragic backstory meets a dash of the supernatural. Definitely not your average dude on the street.
Okay, so Diablo Shiori Escorno, that's his full name, by the way. Try fitting that on a Starbucks cup.
Right.
So picture this. Cramped apartment, more siblings than square feet, you get the idea. Shuri and Samuel, the parents, and let's just say home wasn't exactly a Norman Rockwell painting.
No, it sounds like the opposite of idyllic.
Total opposite. And then you've got his siblings, Bianca, Castell, and little Rudy. Now, Diablo, even as a kid, he stood out. Blood red eyes, white hair like something out of a graphic novel.
And those features, they weren't just striking. They were practically a beacon, right? Like, hey, this kid's different. In a world that already had a hard time accepting anyone outside the norm.
It's like he was set up for a rough go from the get-go. And if that wasn't enough, his dad, Samuel, was battling some serious internal stuff. Lots of verbal abuse hurled at Diablo. Definitely not a healthy environment.
No, not at all. But that's where Bianca comes in, right? Like a total badass older sister shielding Diablo from the bullies and their dad's, let's call them moments. Talk about pressure.
It's rough. And just as Diablo's hitting those awkward preteen years, bam, tragedy hits. Samuel goes on a rampage. We're talking Shuri, Bianca, even Bianca's boyfriend, Nate, gone. Just like that.
Talk about a turning point. This is where Diablo's life veers sharply off course. Imagine being, 12, 13 years old, witnessing that kind of violence, losing your mother, your protector, all in one go.
I can't even imagine. And he's left with his baby brother, Rudy. That's a lot of responsibility for a kid who's barely a teenager himself, you know?
Totally. It's this impossible choice. And the excerpts, they don't hold back. He leaves Rudy with strangers. Just abandons him, essentially.
It's heartbreaking, but when you think about it, in Diablo's mind, maybe it was the only way he could see both of them having a shot at survival.
Right. It's like, what choices do you make when you're facing that level of desperation? And it's right after this that he adopts that whole jeans and hoodie look like he's burying his past self.
Shedding his old life, trying to disappear. And just as he's at his lowest, that's when Myrna enters the picture. And, well, things take a turn for the, interesting, to say the least.
There comes the supernatural element, right? Suddenly, we're not just talking about a tough childhood. We're talking mystical beings, powers, the whole 9 yards. Myrna, as you might guess, she's not your average good Samaritan. She's got secrets.
More like an entire library of secrets. And through her, Diablo meets Tobias. Now, this is where it gets really wild. Tobias is a past life of Theodore, the guy from the present timeline. It's like discovering your mailman used to be Cleopatra in a former life.
Exactly, the layers. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But we're still in the past here, watching this intense bond form between Diablo and Tobias. And it's through this relationship that we finally get some insight into Diablo's identity, romantically speaking. He's gay, which, the source points out, is kind of a big deal, since he's apparently the only LGBTQ character in this whole world the author created.
Which, makes you wonder about the author's intentions there. Right? Yeah. But getting back to the story, we've got Diablo and Tobias, happy, in love. You can probably guess what happens next.
Yeah, happily ever after. Not so much.
Yep.
Jealousy rears its ugly head. Myrna, she's not too thrilled about this whole lovey-dovey situation.
Myrna, jealous, get out of here. She goes full-on vengeful goddess on Tobias.
Oh, yeah. She takes him out, and not just in a, oh, he tripped and fell on a conveniently placed sword kind of way. We're talking soul binding, ensuring he's reborn as her puppet for eternity.
Wow, dark. So now Diablo is dealing with the grief of losing Tobias, but on top of that, he has no idea there's this whole other layer of manipulation at play. Talk about adding insult to injury.
Exactly. And to make matters even worse, in his grief, Diablo begs Myrna to erase his memories of Tobias. He just can't handle the pain, and this one act, it sets the stage for everything that unfolds between him and Theodore in the present.
Oh man, the ultimate setup. He sees Theodore as an enemy, someone to be destroyed, and he doesn't even know why. It's heartbreaking.
It really is. But remember that curveball the source threw at us, the whole Charlotte thing? Apparently later down the line, Diablo meets this woman and becomes, well, bisexual. Something about a soul connection.
Right. What's that all about? Is this a genuine connection, or is Myrna somehow pulling the strings there too? This whole backstory opens up a Pandora's box of questions.
It does.
Yeah.
For starters, if Diablo ever gets his memories back, how's that going to play out with Theodore? The guy's essentially carrying around the soul of his former love. Talk about awkward.
Right. And Myrna. Will he see her as a savior, a manipulator, or something in between? Will he forgive her? We're left with more cliffhangers than an action movie marathon.
This backstory is anything but simple. It's got love, loss, betrayal, and enough supernatural twists and turns to make your head spin.
For sure. This has been quite a deep dive, and it's clear that Diablo is far more complex than he first appears. So, what do you think? What are your initial reactions to all of this? Let us know, because this is just the beginning.